some point, you know, about 7 or 8 years ago, I realized, you know, even after I'd been doing printmaking for a good 5 or 6 or 7 years or whatever it was, about 7 or 8 years ago, I realized that I was going to start doing woodcuts. I was going to start doing, basically, whenever I do a drawing, it ends up being a woodcut. That I was going to start doing woodcuts about the things that were in my daily life, and that's where something like Frankenberry versus the Klan comes from, which is probably the print that I'm best known for. Still, you know, more people remember that I did that stupid print back in '95 or '96, and have ignored everything else I've ever done. But like, I had a little monster cereal Halloween safety kit, this little thing that had Frankenberry and Count Chocula and Boo Berry and Fruit Brute on it, and I just basically drew what the artwork was on the cover, and I threw some Klansmen in, and there was Frankenberry versus the Klan. I was really interested in starting to draw some of the stuff around my house, and so for a long time I felt like that was what people liked. I mean, like, you kind of don't want to ignore when you get a positive reaction. You know, even if you don't want to be a slave to it, you want to acknowledge it. And so I thought, okay, it must be the, you know, the goofiness with the popular culture and like the line quality and all that, but it must really have something to do with this, you know, this bogus pop culture junk stuff. And so I really started to throw more and more of that in there, and but I don't care about that anymore. When I do a print now, I don't know. I look at a lot of magazines from the 50s and from the 40s and, you know, from the 60s too. But it's really just for expressions, or it's really just for compositions, because I don't really I don't find myself to be very creative in that way, in like being able to compose, you know, literally, you know, create a composition. So I look at a lot of other outside influences or resources, and then try to, you know, bring them up to where we are now. And I don't, you know, there's been a political aspect to my work for a while, and then it died out, and I don't know if it'll ever be there again, you know. But like, you know, you'll notice that in a lot of my prints there's people smoking cigarettes, and I've never really been much of a smoker. I don't smoke, but I've just really been fascinated by this whole dynamic of what happens with cigarette companies and cigarette advertising, and the idea that even though it's been acknowledged to be a dangerous product for 50 years, there's this idea that or this lack of personal responsibility, and we're trying to find someone to blame, and it's big tobacco. But that's fine, you know, certainly they've profited off of that, but it's not just big tobacco. There's, you know, there's Ronald Reagan, and there's Bing Crosby, and there's all these guys that made you want to smoke a cigarette in the early 50s or what have you. And there's the idea that the art directors created these really incredible ads that made you want to smoke, and so there's like career culpability there. And it's just a tough image, you know. I mean, it's like a way of taking something, of like taking a little bit of the gloss off of it. I mean, even now if I do a damn ice cream cone, I'm likely to pop a cigarette in here like this. You know, you put lipstick and a cigarette and a martini glass on an ice cream cone, and all of a sudden, you know, it's not a little baby image for, you know, for a 6-year-old. Instead, it's, you know, it's out there and it's happening, and it's what everybody does in real life. They go out to bars and they drink and they have their little cigarettes and all that, and it's kind of the human experience. And so, like, that's my way of like getting adults to look at this play imagery that I find appealing. You know, I like the idea that things have little faces on them and smiles on them, and, you know, apples and bananas and, you know, televisions and all that. And really now I just kind of know that I'm going to pick up my marker, I'm going to do a drawing based on something. It's going to have a certain look, it's going to have certain colors, there's going to be a certain vibe, you know, to it. And it's kind of empowering for me not to have to think, how am I going to approach this? I just charge it, I just get up to it, knock it out. And my job, when I'm doing my job, is to do that every day, is just to get in front of the wood, cut some more wood out, make a print, make a print, make a print, and one day I'll be 85 and I won't be making prints anymore. But basically, I want to be making prints every day, and I work towards that every day. It's what I do, and it's really another way that it's empowering is to realize that there's nothing stopping you from doing what you want to do. We're kind of in a limited world now. You can't be an oil tycoon from scratch, or you can't go out there and start an industry the way that you could have done in 1920s, with radio or television. There's that stuff's not out there, but you can still be a one-man machine, or you can still be a one-man industry. And that's really exciting, because for somebody that doesn't have a lot of resources and doesn't have a lot of monetary resources, to think that I can forge a career for myself just based on what's in my own hands and what's in my head,